Well, wouldn't you?
Yes, Abby!
Jimmy's been in started doing that shit. Our street press just runs through the fucking floor.
Yeah, we did. Funny though.
No, you can have to sit down.
No. Right, just a quick one. I've had a message come through Tom, right? There are photographers here. There's the media from a lot of organisations. Today, we want the world to see what's going on here. The world. We have to respect, just for today, that they're going to stand next to us. I know we don't like it. I know we don't want it. I know we don't respect them. But let them do their job so the world can see you beautiful people. They can see what's going on here today, and then they can go and potentially tell the truth. We'll give them an opportunity today to tell the truth. So don't touch the photographers or any of the media companies. Let them be just for today. Just for today.
They won't do it. They won't tell you shit. Fuck BBC. Hello?
We have 15 minutes to the main man himself is signing up. I just asked all of you, because obviously there's thousands of you. When he comes, if we could just make sure that he gets through. Obviously, if you want pictures and stuff, he's going to walk through the crowd after, but just let him come through, get him here, because I know he wants to say some stuff, obviously. So, yeah, 15 minutes. Oh, Tommy, Tommy!
Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson.
Oh!
Tommy, Tommy. Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson.
Beautiful!
Tommy, Tommy.
Do you reckon it was racist or Nazi first? It was Nazi. You'll see the video coming out later today. But these guys, then we got to a point, and this video I'm going to put out later today or tomorrow during my hangover. But there was a lady who called me, what was it, maybe 10 times, 5 times, fascist within the same amount of seconds, about 5 seconds I got fascist. And I realised, I turned to her, I go, what does fascist mean? And she was like, and then I realised she actually didn't know what fascist meant, so I kept pushing her, and it's going to make for some really good comedy later today, because they don't even know what they're protesting. Because today is not even about Tommy Robinson. Today, you don't even have to like Tommy. You don't have to like Tommy. You don't have to like Tommy. You're an idiot because he's a pretty lovable little cuddly thing, but you don't have to like him. The fact is, if they can concoct and create and intimidate just to create these fake news stories to someone you may like, tomorrow they will do it to someone else. If the establishment wants to bring them down. I'm not going to give much away. I've seen the documentary, so we can talk about it after. But what we see in this story is something scary and dangerous to the fabric of our democracy. When the establishment, including both the political and the media, when they join together to bring down those that scare them, and only scare them because all of you support him. If they can work so hard to do that to someone like Tommy, who do you think there's going to be next? So I want to thank you all for coming. I know I've spoken to so many people who have travelled from far and wide. None of you as far as me. I'll tell you. For me, it was about 30 hours each way, and next week is a busy week for me. And Tommy says, you got to get here, you got to be here for, and it works out, you're here. I was here for 50 hours, I'm going to be here for 50 hours, and on a plane for 60 hours to be here for the 50 hours. And I had to travel through Islamic countries. No, it was fun. I got to troll the shit out. And I may not get back in one piece, but we'll talk about that later. But the point is that people will travel far and wide to stand up for what is left, and to stand up to support those that are willing to tell it as it is. Because the BBC or the ABC in Australia, which are state broadcasters, are not willing to tell it as it is. They're willing to tell it as they want it to be. They're willing just to tell their own corrupt narrative. And in their eyes, we are all the enemy. We are the enemy because we don't support their narrative. And it's time that all Brits, from the right, the left, the centre, everybody stands up and says no. And today, at the end of this film, Tommy will tell you how to do exactly that.
Tommy Robinson! Oh, Tommy Robinson!
He loves Tom Sawyer. Big support, John has. Big round of applause for Avi! What a God. So next, just while we're waiting, because you'll understand when he gets here why. Basically the trams, because of the trams, we've had a lot of information that people are having to come from different directions, so there's people still coming. So that's that delay on that side. But I just want to introduce someone else who's going to say hello to you. I've known this man for probably about a year now, and I've got to say his heart is definitely in the right place. It's veterans, he runs the group Veterans Against Terrorism. He helps all the veterans that are being corrupted and they're being treated with absolute disgust by our establishment. They're on the streets. When we're bringing people over from different countries, we're putting them in houses, yet we're not looking after our own. Ladies and gentlemen, Richard Inman.
Good afternoon, Manchester. I want to ask you a question. How many people have got one of these? Put it up in the air, turn it on, start filming. We're going to break the BBC today, but first I want you all to break Facebook. Start filming this, start live streaming this. Because Ezra talked about it earlier on. You are the BBC. You are the BBC. Start saying, we are the BBC. We are the BBC. We own them. We pay their wages. And yet, they betray us. What does the BBC stand for? I'm thinking about this week. What do they stand for? It used to stand for British culture. It used to stand for honesty. It used to stand for integrity. But not anymore. The BBC is not impartial. I call them the biased broadcasting corporation. And I have a message for the BBC. BBC, you're meant to be the servant of the British people. BBC, you have become the enemy of the British people. See, the BBC really is the biased broadcasting corporation. And you don't have to take my word for it. The two most senior journalists in the BBC tell us that it's the biased broadcasting corporation. This is what Andrew Marr says, you know, the little fella that does the Sunday morning show. He said, the BBC is not impartial. This is a BBC journalist. He says it's not neutral. He says it has a liberal bias. And the BBC legend that is Andrew Neil said this. He said BBC comedy is self-satisfied, unchallenged, left-wing propaganda. I agree with Andrew Neil. And the BBC's very own journalists. Oh dear, one of them's going to get shredded later on today, isn't he? Who feels sorry for Mr. Sweeney? We don't feel sorry for him? Well, neither do I. The BBC's very own journalist union, the National Union of Journalists, used to be a great organisation. Not anymore. Not anymore. They're in bed with that rabble. Stand up to racism. I just said stand up to racism. They have called us, that's me and you and Tommy and everybody else that's here, they've called us far-right thugs. I wonder how ever Yemeni feels about being called a fascist and a far-right thug by a journalistic union. You see, I don't see any far-right thugs here. Do you know what I see here? I see veterans.
Yay!
I see football fans.
Yay!
I see Jewish people.
Yay!
I see ex-Muslims.
Yay!
I see black people.
Yay!
I see women.
Yay!
I see children.
Yahoo!
I see teachers and solicitors and professionals. Are we all far-right thugs, NUJ? I don't think so. You're the fascists. It's about time you shut your mouths.
Yay!
You know, there's a man in the crowd here today. I'm not going to name him. And I want to tell you, this man is a hero. And this man has been coming to every single demonstration for the past 18 months. And he comes because his daughter was in the Ariana Grande concert when that bomb went off. And those little girls, the same age as his little daughter, were killed. That man comes to every single demo. He's not a far-right thug. He's a hero. Give you far-right thugs. See, many in the BBC are so blinded by their own bigotry, they don't realise who we are. We're the people standing against the real fascism.
Yay!
We're the people standing against the Islamo-fascism.
Yay!
We're the people standing against the terrorists that are threatening to tear our nation apart. And we're doing it peacefully and democratically. And we're getting attacked and vilified by these devils. Friends, I want to say something. It's not far right to protest against Islamic supremacism and Islamic terrorism. We're not far right, we're just not far wrong. It's not far right to stand up against the far left anti-Semitic thugs of Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party. It's not far right, it's right. You are not right. You are 100% right. You're not far right. You're 1,000,000% right. And you're standing here because the BBC has become the enemy of the people.
Yes!
Oh, Tommy Robinson. He's Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson! Louder!
Tommy Robinson! Tommy Robinson! He's gone round the back. Go on, Tommy! Come on,
Let's have one more way, say hello to everyone. Oh, Tommy!
Tommy Robinson!
Oh, Tommy!
Tommy Robinson! Oh, 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 go on, Tommy! Go on, Tommy! Go on, Tommy!
Ladies and gentlemen, our hero, our saviour, Mr. is coming.
Excuse me!
Tommy Robinson! Come on, Tom. No way.
Tommy Robinson!
There is some serious trolling going on here. We have, in about 20 minutes, we're just rendering the final part. And we have one edition, but the final one will be ready in about 20 or 30 minutes. That's what we've been waiting for. And also, I understand we've had messages from some people who have been struggling to get in because of the tram. So, Panodrama will go live in about 30 or 40 minutes. And to the journalists, evidence of a corrupt media is that not one single journalist in Britain has reported on Panodrama. It tells the story itself.
Go on, Julie. Go on, Tommy.
This is beautiful. What a beautiful day as well, eh?
Oh, Tommy, Tommy. Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson.
The idea was that we turn up.
Oh, Tommy, Tommy. Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson. Oh, Tommy, Tommy. Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson. Oh, Tommy, Tommy. Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson. Oh, Tommy, Tommy. Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson.
I was gonna give my speech after you've watched the documentary because there's a lot of points I want to talk about in it. But do you know what? I want to start off saying some thank yous actually. Thank you to every single person that's come today, but also who watched the documentary 3-part series, The Real Tommy Robinson. Paul, where are you? Where's Paul? Fine. You know, we are constantly battling a media that lie. Now, I met a gentleman, I met him months ago, where he said he wants to do his part. Because like you, like every one of you that's here, you've listened to what I say. You've followed my story. You know I'm not a fascist or an extremist or a racist. But we're constantly battling the lies. So Paul, I want to say a thank you because that documentary, I'm grateful. You took your time to do that for me to help people see the real me. So thank you, Paul, man. This is going to be really cheesy, yeah?
I'm gay.
But probably going to the pub now and then.
Oi!
Excuse me. Excuse me. Nancy, you need to move.
Say it! Just say
Whoa, Tommy, Tommy. Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson. Whoa, Tommy, Tommy. Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson. Oh, Tommy, Tommy. Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson. Oh, that's it.
Sorry. I'm just going to stand here and enjoy the moment all day.
Whoa, Tommy, Tommy. Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson. Oh, Tommy, Tommy. Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson. Oh, Tommy, Tommy. Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson. Oh, Tommy, Tommy. Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson.
Do you know what I'll do? I know Jared, see my speech I want it to come after the documentary, yeah? And I've got something that I want to play as well to say a thank you to someone, so they're rendering it. The main point as well, when you see a movement, which is what this is, it's a movement. That movement must be politicised. It has to be politicised. The politicians will not care. None of them will care until they start seeing us take their seats. There's only one politician that I've listened to, that I respect, and that I'd vote for. And that's Jared Bannon. He showed real leadership under pressure recently, but... Jared, I'll let you go.
Come on, Jared!
mindful of the people that I associate with. Now, what I want to make sure today are that there are no bald-headed tattooed thugs. So, can you all put your hand up? Are there any baldies? Anybody got a tattoo? Any thugs? You were supposed to say no. Well, I'm here now, so I better do it. First of all, I've seen the film, or at least I've seen a version of the film that Tommy's putting together. I've seen a version of the film that Tommy's putting together, and it's pretty shocking stuff. And I'm very sorry to be here today. I'm very sorry that there's any need to be here today. Now, as you can guess by looking at me, I'm pretty old now. And as a young kid growing up in a working class area of London, I got a lot of my education from the BBC. I used to watch all kinds of programmes, nature programmes, art programmes. You remember documentaries like Civilization? You remember you used to get classical music on the third programme, you're all too young to remember that. And I used to love the stuff that I got on the BBC. It was a window to the world, and I was very grateful for it. But all kinds of things coming into my world that I wouldn't otherwise get if it hadn't been for the BBC. But I'm afraid that it's not the case anymore. Now, I also started watching news and current affairs when I was about 10 years old, and that's 55 years ago. And I was an avid watcher of news and current affairs. So we had the Cold War in those days. It was more interesting, if more dangerous than today. And not just the BBC, but we had the ITV as well. We had 2 channels, then we got 3 with BBC 2. And I have to say to you now, most of the news and current affairs on the mainstream media is unwatchable and unlistenable. And the thing that's really brought that home to everybody in the last 2 years and 8 months has been the mainstream media's coverage of Brexit.
Yay!
It has been an unrelenting black propaganda campaign against leaving the European Union.
Yay!
And I think lots of people now have just switched off. They don't watch the BBC, or it is just for the news headlines like me. They don't watch ITV, Sky, they certainly don't watch Channel 4. And they're getting their information from alternative sources. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Not always reliable, but you have to take the responsibility for deciding what you believe and what you don't believe. And as I say, most people now are not prepared to accept a diet of propaganda. And what is the agenda that the mainstream media promote? They are anti-Brexit, pro-European Union. They are pro-mass, uncontrolled immigration. And they are pro a politically correct social engineering program that is going out over all walks of life. And anyone who disagrees has to be marginalised and attacked. Which brings me to why I'm here today.
I'm saying his new family one.
And you may have seen recently that I was featured in the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail, of course, is a newspaper that main agenda is always vote Tory. Whatever happens for the period of a parliament, however bad the Tories perform, when you get to the end of that term, it's always vote Tory. It wouldn't matter who was running the Tory party, it could be Pol Pot for all they care, but it's vote Tory. And they decided they didn't like what I was saying, so they has to attack me. So what did they do? They sent a so-called journalist 200 miles north of Manila, thousands of miles away, so they could interrogate my wife's family to see what they could dig up on me or her and put it in their filthy rag of a newspaper. Well, there wasn't anything to find, so it was a very expensive, wasted trip, but they still managed to print a load of nonsense about me, and they managed to lie about what my Rice relatives supposedly said. Now let's come back to why we're here today. Some people in UKIP, and some people I know, ask me, why are you associating with Tommy Robinson? What's that got to do with our core fundamental policy, which is to leave the European Union?
Yay!
It's got everything to do with it, and let me explain why. The BBC took Tommy Robinson to be a thick working class mug.
Yeah.
Well, he's not.
No,
They thought
he's not.
that they were going to set him up, but he set them up. They're the mugs. They've fallen into a trap of their own making, and you're going to see that when the film gets shown. And the BBC's working title of that film, Tommy Takedown, tells you everything you need to know. I sat in the appeal court when Tommy had been let out in order to face the justice, face the music in the Old Bailey about whether he was going to prison or not over the alleged contempt of court because of what he'd done in Leeds. And of course, we were told this could go on all day while they listened to the evidence. What actually happened was, Tommy had done a submission the day before, given it to the judge. We watched the judge. It took the judge about 15 minutes in the court to explain to the barristers on both sides, basically, that there wasn't a case to answer. Oh, he didn't quite say that, but that's what he meant. There was no case to answer. He knew it was a political case, and he shoved it upstairs to the Attorney General to make a decision, because he knew it was a political decision and not a legal decision. And what's happened since? How long ago was that? That was quite a few months ago now. Nothing has happened since, and Tommy is still waiting for an answer. And he spent, was it 2.5 months in solitary confinement when you're only supposed to do 2 weeks maximum? Now, if you were going to make a documentary about Tommy Robinson for the BBC, its flagship documentary series that's been going ever since I was a boy, what would you think it would concentrate on? What was the true facts behind that case? What was right? What was wrong? What was the truth? What's the truth about Tommy Robinson? Warts and all. What's he done? What hasn't he done? Was that what it's about? No, it was called Tommy Takedown because they set out with the purpose of blackening his name, destroying his character, destroying his life, because he represents a threat to the establishment. And how can this 5'6" man who doesn't belong to a political party be a threat to the establishment? I'll tell you how. It's because he speaks up to things that are right, he tells the truth, and he can mobilise lots of people like you. And that's what they And what was the programme like? You'll see this when the film comes on. So I think some of you have seen snippets that have been released already. And my favourite one is when John Sweeney sums up his attitude and the attitude of the elite at the BBC when they describe a white working class man as akin to a cannibal or a creature from outer space. If your views are not acceptable to the BBC or the mainstream media or the political establishment, then you have to be called names, you have to be marginalised and excluded and ostracised. And what do they call you? What are the names that they call? I don't want to forget, so let's make sure that I remember. If you want your country to be an independent, democratic nation state, that must leave the European Union in order to restore that status, you are far right. think that immigration should be controlled so that we let in people that we actually want, in line with a sensible, discriminatory immigration policy rather than an open door policy, then you will be labelled far right.
No, you're not meant to be there.
You will be far right, you'll be an xenophobe, you may even achieve the status of being called a Nazi if you really stand up for a few sensible things. And this is how they operate. I've had to put up with some of this myself. When I watch myself reported in the papers or on some of the mainstream media programming, who are they talking about? Who is this person? I don't recognise them. It certainly isn't me. For the last 26 years of my life, I've been in active politics in order to restore my country as a democratic, independent nation-state governed by its own parliament. Under its own laws, by politicians that we elect, and with governments that we can sack. And this day and age, you now are in danger of being called far right if you stand up for something as basic and as democratic as that. George Orwell said, and I'll quote it, "During times of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act." You are now revolutionaries, and all the people that vote for UKIP up and down the country, and who believe similar things that we do, basic, ordinary, sensible things, you are now revolutionaries, because the world has been stood on its head. And we are supposed to accept a diet of nonsense, absurdities and insanities every day, because that's what is being dictated to us by our political and mainstream media establishment. And the BBC now stands for, well, it stands for many things, and we could have a competition to come up with the best one. My working title is the Biased Broadcasting Corporation. And you're being forced to pay for this propaganda through the licence fee. BBC gets about 3.2 something billion per year from the taxpayer, whether you like it or not. If you have a television set and you watch it, you're supposed to have a licence fee, or have got a licence and pay for it. They also get millions of pounds every year, I don't know whether you knew this, from the European Union. Now, that millions of pounds, it's true, is a drop in the ocean of the BBC's budget, but they still get money from the European Union, which they don't have to account for, and which people have only found out about because they put in Freedom of Information Acts. Otherwise, you wouldn't even know. So there you have an organisation that in its charter says it must give impartial, fair political reporting, taking money from a political organisation, which then the BBC says we shouldn't leave. Or if it doesn't say it directly, it certainly infers that in the endless stream of propaganda telling us why Brexit won't work and can't work. And they're not alone in that. Let's not just single out the BBC. Sky do it relentlessly every day. Channel 4 do it relentlessly every day. ITV do it. Even on LBC there's quite a lot of it. And of course Radio 4, which I haven't, news programmes which I haven't listened to in years anyway. So I'm sure they're doing it as well. Now, if you don't like it, what are you going to do about it? Well, do you realise that you can only be convicted for not having a licence fee if you actually convict yourself? Now, if you have a television set in your house and you never watch it, or you only watch CDs, should the television licensing man turn up on your doorstep, the only way you can be convicted of not having a license is to admit that you've been watching broadcast television programs, which I'm sure you wouldn't do, would you? I'm sure most of you have got a TV that you just use for watching CDs and DVDs. Well, if he knocks on your door and asks you, you do not watch broadcast television programs, in which case you don't have to pay the licence fee. Now, personally, I would be happy to pay a license fee for a channel that didn't have any adverts on it. I think that was a bargain. But I don't want to pay a license fee, and I'm forced to, because, in order to listen to a diet of propaganda contrary to my own political views. I actually used to respect the BBC, I don't anymore, because it used to have quality broadcasting on news and current affairs. And there are still people there, they're not all bad. You've got Andrew Neil, you've got other people who are fair. And he's the best commentator on the BBC, and of course now I understand that he's going anyway, he's stepping down. So you know what you're in store now, a continued parade of the Andrew Mars of this world, who, as we already heard, doesn't even admit that they should be impartial in the first place. And when he said they have a liberal agenda, no, madam, they don't. It isn't liberal. Liberal is live and let live under our democratic system. That's not what they mean by liberal. By liberal they mean you must accept their politically correct, left-wing, Marxist view of the world, or you are a bad person. So what are you going to do about it? Well, I'll tell you what to do in the same way that I do to every meeting that I go to. Now, I know I'm biased as well because I lead a political party, and naturally I want you to join and I want you to vote, which I do. And I realise there are alternative parties out there and it's a free market. Politics is a free market. But you will not get anywhere unless you take votes away from the other parties, because that is the only thing that they take notice of and that they care about. So what I would like you to do is go away, and if you haven't joined UKIP already, join UKIP. And we've got very reasonable terms. You can pay, doesn't cost anywhere near as much as a licence fee. It's £30 a year or £4 a month. Because without members, without the money coming in, I cannot organise elections and political campaigns. It's not my party, it's the party belongs to the members and the people who vote for it. And we've got some elections coming up. We've got local elections up and down the country on the 2nd of May. And we need candidates and we need money. We may possibly have a European election. I'll just say a bit about that in a minute. And there'll certainly be a general election at some point. Now, unless there is an alternative political party that gets votes, nothing is going to change. Only you can make change. If you want change, you have to do something about it. Why do you think I'm out here on a Saturday afternoon when I could be sitting at home with my feet up? And why have I been doing that for the last 26 years? Because I want change, and it can only come through the efforts of the citizens of this country, and that's me, and that's you. Let me say a little bit about Brexit. I have said right from the start that the political establishment will betray it. And where are we now? We've had 2 years and 8 months of Mrs May going to the European Union and pleading with them for a good deal on how to leave. And what do you think they're going to say? It's all too difficult. No, we can't possibly do that. You must agree to this concession and that concession. And why wouldn't they? They don't want us to leave. And we're now only about 5 weeks away from the date when we're supposed to be leaving. And they've already, Parliament has kicked back her withdrawal agreement. Why have they done that? Not because it was so bad, but because it wasn't bad enough. Because what Parliament wants is a deal whereby we don't really leave at all. And that's where we're heading. My guess would be that we're not just going to get the withdrawal agreement we've got, but it will include the Irish backstop and probably will include the customs union. And that means we don't really leave. And then what's going, if that happens and we leave in name only, you will see another year, 2 year, 3 year relentless black propaganda campaign from the mainstream media headed by the BBC telling you it was all a big mistake, we shouldn't have left, we've got to go back in, and that's what the next government will do, whether it be Conservative or Labour, because they don't want to leave. Now that's a pretty black picture to paint, I'm afraid, but I fear that's what's going to happen. The struggle to get out of the European Union merely goes into its next phase, and that can only be fought by a big, powerful political party capable of taking votes away from Labour, Tory and Lib Dem. That's what my objective is, to build UKIP up to be able to do that. Because if we don't leave the European Union, we're going to go on paying them billions of pounds. We're going to go on having to accept their laws. We're going to go on having mass uncontrolled immigration. How many people here have heard of the UN Global Compact on migration? Yeah? Mrs. May signed up to that. Did you see anything on that Sunday evening when they did that about a month ago on the mainstream media? No, I didn't. I was surprised about that. I thought, big story, why don't they broadcast it? What the UN Global Compact says is that you have to have more migration, you have to basically legalise illegal immigration, you will make it almost impossible to turn illegal migrants back, and if anybody in the countries receiving those people has the temerity to object, they can be criminalised under racism and xenophobia laws. That is what is going to happen next. Now, the fight back starts here. You're going to watch a shocking film which shows you how low our mainstream media and the BBC and Panorama in particular have sunk. But when you get all worked up and angry about that, decide what you're going to do. Organise politically, join UKIP, give us money, stand as a candidate, fight back. It's your fight, not mine.
I'll be honest, for the last 3 hours, we had no documentary. I have had the worst morning I've ever had, and I've had some bad mornings. We've got 7 minutes now until it's downloaded. We had to go get another computer, because the computer, it wouldn't render, it collapsed. So we had the worst morning. But over the last 10 years, I've been a bit of an arsehole to live with at certain times. Put my wife through hell. And my wife's here somewhere. This is my tribute to her.
Before we
my court case. I want to give a message to the Attorney General. I was released from prison after the highest judge in the land ruled it a prejudiced and unfair case. But they didn't end it there. We went to the Old Bailey 3 times. It was a beautiful moment outside the Old Bailey. I loved it, actually. Now, the judge, after reading the evidence, sent it back to the government again. It's currently sitting on the Attorney General's desk. The Attorney General, a week before Christmas, sent us a letter to let us know he's still looking at 3 charges. So, I want us all to give him a message. Kelly? We're going to give him a song. And know this, Attorney General. I don't even know your name. Know this. I dare you to charge me again. Because I just want to see the scenes outside the courts. Also, do you know what? You know, political correctness rules us all. And this week, I pandered to political correctness, and I'm raging with myself. There's a comedian called Owen Benjamin. And when you look at what he does, he pushes his jokes, or he says everything that he's not meant to say. And if he's told not to say, he says it again. And he was supposed to be here today singing. And I got thrown, and I pandered to political correctness because I looked at some of the things he said, and I hate myself for it. So Owen, if you're watching this, I apologise, man. I wish you was here, bro. This is his song.
Journalists were allowed to report, but you don't really care for freedom, do ya? It goes like this, a thousand things, the glass falls and then cut your wrist. It's not okay, this is how they rule ya. How they rule ya. Hallelujah.
beautiful.
Tommy, Tommy! Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson! Oh, Tommy, Tommy! Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson! Oh, Tommy, Tommy! Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson!
Do you know another time that I pandered to political correctness? When the news stories come out on Danny Tomo, I literally told him to hide at the next demo. And I read this the other day. Never be a prisoner of your past. It was just a lesson, not a life sentence. So, we don't care what the media print. Everyone has a chance to change. Danny organised this whole demonstration today. He set it all up. So thank you. Can everyone who's got Twitter, can you get your phone out and do hashtag Panodrama? I want to get it trending. And you know what? During that song, I finally got the phone call to say that they're on the way and it's rendered. We've got the documentary. I had a meltdown for 3 hours. I swear to God, we were all sat in a hotel room. But yeah, it is coming and it's good. But also, plans for the future. TR News. We have plans to tell the stories of the rape of Britain. In fact, that's what we're going to call it. We're going to hear from the victims, hear from their parents.
Go, Tommy!
We're going to track down and find and highlight and show you the people responsible. The people, all those people who knew it was happening, who are sitting at home enjoying their pensions. The whole country will know who you are. And like we've done here, this is the plan anyway. We're going to make individual documentaries about individual cities, from Telford to Rotherham to Oxford. And then we're going to eject massive screens like this, and we're going to air them in the city centres. And do you know what? Do you know what's so great? I don't even think there's any mainstream media here. We don't need you anyway, you're irrelevant now.
Tommy Robinson.
Get more views than Annie.
Tommy Robinson.
We've got Abby as well.
Tommy Robinson.
I see some.
Yay!
Abby is the Arab me.
Guys, I think it's important, just right now, this point that he made a minute ago, because TR.news is where it's going to be at. We can see the mainstream media has failed us, not only here. There are people across the world watching this now, and they are all going to hook onto this, and everybody sign up to it, because we can show them that we don't need them anymore, just like Tommy just said a second ago. If you pull out your phone, if you have Twitter, if you have Facebook, if you have, what else is there, Instagram these days, what do the kids play with? Snapchat. But if you go on there now, take a photo of the crowd, take a photo of what is going on, hashtag Panodrama, because we will get that trending. And it doesn't matter that they don't report it, because everyone knows about it, just like Tommy just said. Go live for 1 minute. He will have more views than the 6 o'clock news of BBC. No one is going to force tax you to pay for TR.news. Those who want to support will support it. And everybody that wants to know what really is happening in the UK, in Australia, in America, in Canada, in the entire Western world, will know the truth without no political correctness to filter it. Tommy gave us his 2 times that he used political correctness, and he said, he told me on the way here, he used the old, never again.
Yay!
Tommy said the something about kidnapping.
Avi, Avi, Avi. Never again!
This crowd can find those corrupt journalists that are bullying innocent people and go to their doorsteps and film them. Yes, shame on the BBC. See, this movement here is the real people of the United Kingdom. You are the real people. You are the People's Army. And the man that stood on the platform before me, Tommy Robinson, he is the lightning rod for this movement. He is the man that takes all the flak and takes all the hits, but he represents every single one of us. But we also have a political party. You heard from the leader of that political party earlier on. Now that political party, because its association with our movement, has been demonised and vilified and blocked out of the mainstream media, and that political party is the UK Independence Party.
Get it down! Your flag down!
And I want to say to everybody in this crowd, join UKIP, vote UKIP, support UKIP, and you will see your freedom. On the 29th of March this year, something's happening. I'm not sure what it is. There's been a lot of talk about it in the media. There's something going on. And I believe there's either going to be a party in London or there's going to be a protest in London. Get yourselves to London on the 29th of March to celebrate our freedom. And if those corrupt and rotten politicians in Westminster betray our Brexit, we are going to give them a bloody nose at the next election. And we're going to see UKIP change things like they've never changed before. They think Brexit was big. This is going to be bigger. We will get our freedom and we will make Britain great again. Thank you all.
Wow. See that passion? Second to none. That passion is real. He's seen it for what it really is. Take what he said and put it inside your heart and believe it, and definitely vote UKIP. They're the only ones that are speaking for, in my opinion, that are speaking for us at the moment. So I want to introduce the next person. Make sure he's ready before I introduce him. One sec.
Go, Danny!
Okay.
Now! Brexit! Brexit!
Right. Now, journalists. The documentary's ready! And I'll talk about it afterwards. Let's have a watch.
I've caused a breach of peace. I'm being arrested. The content of what I'm streaming, I'm being arrested for breach of the peace. I'm being arrested for breach of peace. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. Can you get me a solicitor? Can you get me a solicitor? Yes. Can you get me a solicitor? Yeah?
What are you arresting me for, Tommy?
Breach of the peace. Apparently I'm inciting on my video. Since my activism started over a decade ago, the establishment, the police and the media have all been trying to take me down. The whole world saw me wrongfully imprisoned last year. 2.5 months on solitary confinement. What was the response by the media to that unlawful detention? They justified it. They lied to you. All of them reported that I pled guilty. None of them got the transcripts from the court. None of them reported the truth. We have a corrupt media. When I went to prison and 600,000 people signed a petition for my release, 30,000 people marched here demanding my release. When I come out of prison, I was completely unaware of the lengths that they were going to take me down. My PayPal was removed. That removes my ability to hire a team and work and bring you the other side of the story. My website was closed down, but I was completely unaware that Panodrama, the world's leading investigative journalist documentary, were working on a programme about me with the working title, Tommy Takedown. This was their final punch. They were about to discredit me to the nation, to you, the public. And I will prove that that documentary is not impartial, that it's scripted, that they invent things, that they lie, that they clip, that they edit. What you will witness in this documentary will prove to you this isn't about Tommy Robinson. This is about all the people that have been lied to, all the people who have been mislabelled, despite all their efforts to silence me. It becomes very apparent that something far more sinister was going on. With the collusion between the establishment, Panodrama, and a far-left extremist organisation called Hope Not Hate. You're going to hear about the tactics they use to get the narrative they want. In this documentary, you're going to hear a lot about Hope Not Hate. It's important to understand who they are. Hope Not Hate is a so-called anti-fascist organisation who formed in 2004. They formed from a group and a magazine called Searchlight. Nick Lowles, who now leads Hope Not Hate, was a lead member of Searchlight. In 1984, Searchlight worked alongside Panodrama to fraudulently edit footage which they were prosecuted or taken to court and sued for. They paid £1 million damages to Conservative MPs who they wrongfully edited footage to link them with far-right extremist groups. Hope Not Hate brand themselves as an anti-fascist organisation. They're there to tackle fascism. But in reality, they label, slander and attack anyone who speaks out against open borders or against Islam. The worrying thing is they have a lot of influence. For example, all media outlets across the UK, across the world, take what they say as credible and they work hand in hand with them. From CNN, The Guardian, Huffington Post, The Independent, Sky News, Newsnight, Panorama, The Metro, The Sunday Times. They even advise the UN. They advise counter-terrorism. In their advice to the UN, they say that our Day for Freedom demonstration that many of you would have watched was a far-right extremist rally. That's fake news, being given as credible information and taken as expert info by the UN. Our Day for Freedom demonstration had homosexual speakers, drag artists, black speakers, Asian speakers. There was nothing far right against it. There was a liberal demonstration demanding free speech.
So what happens is when someone gets censored on Twitter for some kind of for hate speech or for incitement to violence or engaging in some kind of terrorist communication, they get their account taken down. They tend to come back, and that actually leads to sort of an increased level of sense of participation and integration into these networks. So I do a lot of work looking into right-wing extremism in the United Kingdom and the United States. And one of the things that we've seen there is actually an entire mobilization of right-wing extremist activity around the concept of the freedom of speech being taken away from people. So just a few weeks ago in London, there was a march attended by a few thousand people that was called Day for Freedom. and that was entirely sort of centered around this issue of free speech and the sense that in the kind of parlance of the extreme right, the liberal establishment was trying to silence extreme right, legitimate conservative voices.
Just last year, Hope Not Hate were identified in a Swedish military report on left-wing extremist violence. It has been proven that Hope Not Hate exaggerated hate crime figures by 3,000%. Nothing they said after that point should ever have been taken as credible, let alone taken by journalists without checking anything and spread around the world to demonise and slander people and organisations. They play a key role in pressurising social media giants, whether it be with petitions or requests from MPs that they're working alongside with to say who's promoting hate. Not who's promoting hate that would breach laws in this country, but who needs silencing with their opinion. They're now teaching your children in schools about fascism. If we take a quote from their original spin doctor, Dan Hodges, from his quote you'll understand the tactics they use in this documentary. It was a no-holds-barred, bare-knuckle PR. We used every dirty, underhand, low-down, unscrupulous trick in the book. These are quotes from their spin doctor, Joe Moorhouse, who's a lead researcher for Hope Not Hate. He brags about days out with their BBC political reporters. Their relationship works hand in hand with the corrupt mainstream media. They do the reports, the media then use their ammunition and their labelling to attack people and organisations, to demonise them and slander them. In 2015, Joe Moorhouse used the hashtag Antifa on several occasions. The reason why this is so relevant is when you understand who Antifa are. Antifa are an organisation that leading members of the American government have called to be prescribed as a terrorist organisation. They balaclava up, they mask up, and they violently attack people who they're told to attack, and organisations which are highlighted to them by groups and organisations like Hope Not Hate. They find out who you are, they contact your work, anyone who steps above the parapet. Hope Not Hate's goal is to silence them and stop them. This is about stopping free speech. This is about having people too scared to speak. We'll speak with one gentleman now whose life has been completely changed due to him voicing his opinions. He broke no law, committed no crime. But wait till you hear what Hope Not Hate done to him.
This time last year, like I said, I was working full-time, happy, and because of some things I was doing outside of work, where I sort of expressing my political opinions and so on, I ended up drawing their fire, and they wrote a report and called it in to the employer. So it was a kind of deliberate attempt to, it wasn't just to dox me, because I hadn't hidden my name, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong, I was just expressing an opinion. But it was an attempt to deliberately get me fired.
Where was you working?
I was working at Standard Chartered Bank in Moorgate.
Doing what?
I was an associate, so I've been there from a grad. I went to Bristol University and then went into the bank straight afterwards. So I've been there for about just around 18 months at this point.
So a good career?
Yeah, it was going well. Internally, there'd been no issues.
When you say you got involved, you was giving your political opinions with regards to?
Obviously the controversial stuff, so immigration, Islam, these kind of issues, but not in an extreme way, nothing you wouldn't happily say to anyone.
Just so we can get clear, we're not talking about committing a crime, we're just talking about speaking openly about immigration and Islam.
Yeah, and no one had a problem with it. That's the whole point that kind of strikes me about it.
So it's not like anyone made a complaint, nothing's happened, so what did Hope Not Hate do?
So Hope Not Hate, one of their, I can't remember which, but a team of their researchers wrote a small report. They were calling up multiple offices at the bank, and they were also focusing, because obviously we have a very big presence in the Middle East, so they were focusing on officers there to call them and just basically say, you've got this guy working for you, he's an Islamophobe, he's a racist, blah, 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 all of which obviously isn't true. I remember I was just sitting at my desk, and I get called in by the MD, and he sort of says, have you been saying this? And I said, yeah, no, I have. I didn't see it as a problem. The same guys were going to a lot of journalists trying to flog this report as well to make a big story out of it. Eventually, in around the summer of last year, you get this article. It's very vicious, and it's obviously largely lifted from the report that came out a few weeks earlier. You know, using slurs, using kind of nonsense labels, calling us Nazis, all that kind of thing.
Calling you Nazis with any evidence? Was there
no
any
evidence whatsoever at all. It was made up with a very clear intention of making me lose my job, and it is a common tactic.
You did lose your job?
Yeah, I was suspended, and then once the coverage happened, they obviously, whilst previously, like internally the bank, I think, had kind of thought, well, maybe this is just an attack piece. Once there was coverage, obviously, it's their reputation on the line. So then, pretty much immediately, I was fired. I have worked.
Just so that the public understand this, you committed no crime. You speak outside of work about immigration or Islam with no hatred, just facts. And because of that, where are you now? How's your life changed? What do you see for your future now?
Financially very difficult, of course, because it kills your income. And then there's knock-ons from that that are always a pain.
Okay, well thanks, and I hope you, I wish you luck and try and get your life sorted.
Me too.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
So you've heard from Tom Dupree. You've heard how his life was changed simply for expressing his free speech due to the actions of Hope Not Hate. Later on in this documentary, you'll hear recordings of Caelan Robertson and George Llewellyn-John to see how their lives have been affected. Caelan and George used to work with me at Rebel Media, and when I went independent, they come to work with me there. When I was released from prison, I met with them. They said that they'd been intimidated and threatened, and for that reason they couldn't work with me. I'd just been released from prison. I wasn't in a good state, and I thought they were just saying that because they wanted to go and work with Lauren Southern. Also, you'll hear recordings from Lauren Southern. Lauren Southern is a leading political activist from Canada. She now works as a journalist making documentaries. In those recordings, you'll hear about allegations about how they've suffered due to the actions of Hope Not Hate. So, I've been contacted by Lucy Brown, who's an ex-employee. The last time we spoke to each other, we were screaming obscenities at each other. Now, she's been contacted by Hope Not Hate and by Panorama, who are working together on a project against me. Work entitled Tommy Takedown. So, I'm on the way to see Lucy. I'm actually really concerned and worried about what it is they're up to, because I know everything they've tried to do to take me down hasn't worked, so let's see what's next. Last time I spoke to you, I screamed some obscene, some terrible things down the phone.
So did I. I also have a surprise for you.
Go on.
I thought I'd commiserate it, so I actually got your prison number.
No, you haven't!
To remind myself the happiest day of my life.
What? 82084CG?
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh my god!
Laugh my head off.
Oh my god! Shit, Lucy, you were fucking angry. How have we ended up sitting here?
Sorry, John.
Well, I received a very interesting email from one John Sweeney a couple of days ago, who is a big, BBC presenter for Panorama. Yes, apparently he's quite well known. And he's asking if I want to go for first it was a cup of tea, but then it was a pint. And he'll come all the way to Cambridge to see me, and I think he wants some dirt on you.
You was approached. Right. Joe Mulhall?
Joe Mulhall, yes, Hope Not Hate.
So you approached by Hope Not Hate. He told you, I've seen what they told you.
Yep.
They told you that there's a take Tommy down.
There's a Tommy takedown.
Tommy takedown?
Yes, and they've been taken on as sort of advisors to BBC to help them with interviews and to get information about you.
How easy would it have been for you to...
They offered me $5,000 for a front page story about you being a twat.
What you could have done? You could have absolutely destroyed me, and my life, and my name, and my reputation. More so than that prison number did. More so than me going in prison could have done. Because you could have said anything, and they would not.
I've arranged to meet John Sweeney tomorrow at 2 p.m. And by the sounds of it, what these people do is they try and be your friend when you're vulnerable, and they ply you with drink, and they try to get you to say something that you wouldn't normally say.
I want to show if what Lucy could have done. Well, none of it will be factual, but what Lucy could have done. Now bear in mind, I might not have been here. You could have just done this, yeah? Fake text messages, falsify sender numbers of text. So if you wanted to, my phone will be here. Let's change the number there. And we'll keep that as we said. Let's put my number in. So you effectively, as a disgruntled employee who fucking got a prison number tattooed on your wrist. Let's take down Tommy.
Broke, I've got no means of income, I hate you. Joe Morgan's just messaged me saying I can get you some money to do Tommy in. So I can go to fakemytext.co.uk and I can make you text me and then I can show...
No. My phone's here. I'm at home, minding my own business.
I've got Joe Morgan there.
Joe Morgan offering the takedown of Tommy Robinson.
offering you some money, and you have said to me, what?
If you have anything to do with the Panodrama, I will fucking bury you, bitch. Yeah.
Hang on, because I'm writing Y-O-U, but you write you.
I write you.
Sorry. I just need to make it some bad grammar because...
Yeah, drop the T's because I don't pronounce my T.
I'm going to put W-I-V instead of with. It's panorama. You wouldn't make that capital. So.
No, I put with. I put with.
Okay, right. With this panorama dot.
If you have anything to do with panorama
I
dot.
will fucking bury you, comma.
Bury
You bitch.
Just to prove, I can have nothing to do with this. I'm not. My phone's here, so I've not sent you a message.
Yeah, so the point.
And the point is that they're actively searching with a far left organisation. They're actively working with my ex-employees to bring me down. What I want to prove here is how easy it is and how many other things in this documentary have been faked on you. If you had anything to do with this panorama dog, I will fucking bury you, you bitch. So I didn't send that. That's sent from my computer. My phone has not sent you a single message. Now, Panorama are the biggest investigative journalists in the world, so I don't see how this can work. If they wanted to do a proper investigative journalist piece, they should look at the crime that I committed. Was it criminal? Did the judge act out of law? Were my human rights abused? One of the biggest cases in this country's history in modern time. Yeah, 600,000 people signed a petition, 30,000 people marching, ambassadors from the American government, every political party in Europe talking about it. The most talked about court case in decades, but they're not bothered about it. This is fake. Yeah, this is going to be falsified. This is not me, and I want to see if this, by a disgruntled ex-employee, could make its way around the world.
I'd like to see how much power Hope Not Hate have over the world's media.
Yeah, basically. This is the little one. This will replace your button. This will go into your button anyway. This is how it will record. And are you nervous?
No.
You should be. You should be. And well, let's just wait to see what we get from this. Time will tell. But good luck. Don't do anything I would do. See you later. Success?
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. Let's see. Crazy? You crazy? Good? You good?
Lots of alcohol was consumed tonight. For the grace of it.
Okay, right.
It was sticky.
You took it for the team. I only drunk for the team.
I did what I had to do.
Right. Let's
get these files sorted.
Let's work out what we've got. We've got lots of footage to go through. Straight off, the crazy thing for me is, you're Steve.
Which is the champagne and the double gin.
Thank you.
And then we're going to have some red wine, but we'll panic about that at the appropriate moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On expenses, in the boozer, with the dog and the fire. I think we should have one more bottle of beer. No expense spared. 2 brand new lemon chalice. This is from the Cassis, or the Kir Royale. But even better is another version which is with blackberry, blackcurrant liqueur and champagne. Kir Royale. Have you got any flaming Sambuca? And then 2 Kir Royale. And then the bill. Lovely, thank you. Thank you very much. I think we've got to do a runner. It's a joke. It's fine. It isn't. I don't care. Normally, I really don't care. Good. Service included. So make it 220. Thank you very much.
What's this on BBC Expenses? How much alcohol has been consumed? I've heard him mention 3 bottles of wine, champagne, flaming Sambuca, all in 5 minutes. And you can hardly sit up. So, for me, that's an expensive scandal that the licence fee paid is paying for. Should we be paying for you to get pissed? Of course you think you should.
Me getting drunk is me being more lucid, and then I'll tell him stuff like that.
So he's wanting to get you drunk. He's using the expense money to get you drunk in order to get information.
Get me drunk, be nice to me, be my friend, and then I'll loosen up and be like, oh, I've got this recording, or I want to tell you this, or whatever.
You may not like what I'm about to say, but one of my political heroes is the former head of the IRA, who chose the IRA, but not...
Nick Goebbels?
No, the guy got on well with the Queen. So there are two of them.
I should know that, but...
Danny McGuinness, I think his name is. And he got on anyway. He was at the IRA.
Hey man, I've heard the Irish have been genocided.
And last time when I was there, they were okay.
Martin McGuinness. His political hero is Martin McGuinness. Martin McGuinness is the leader of the IRA. He's responsible for murder. Bombs. It's a strange person to have as your political hero. From, I don't know, from someone who's trying to paint me as extreme anyway. That is the sole reason I wanted to do this. For me, that is terrifying. How can they get that? How can he say he can do that from that innocent conversation or argument or disagreement, which has got nothing to do with it? So that is the sole reason I wanted that footage, to see exactly what are, and that's terrifying for me to think, what the hell are they about to portray to this country about me? What the hell are they going to say?
Don't make it up, could you?
That's not the first time that's happened.
That's why they all ended up
In what sense?
because of pricks.
Because I told you about, I was offered £5,000 to do like a story on you, like a front page newspaper story.
Well, I hope not hate. You're talking about in the kitchen.
But I was also...
I hope not hate you're working with these people.
Yeah, but I was also approached by a really mainstream newspaper, basically, to kind of make it out that you were like sexual allegations against me or something.
But they were approaching you for that. At a time when we fell out.
Yeah, they said when I was at my lowest and I basically didn't have a job and I was like, you know, a complete mess, and they were trying to like dig and get stuff out of me. And they were trying to make out that you'd done like a Me Too. They were trying to make out that you basically like abused me. And then they wanted to put in, they kind of ran with and went back to their editor, and then I called up and said, I really don't want this isn't true, you know, you've kind of twisted it to fit your own narrative here. And he said, well, I'm sorry, it's too late, I've already sent it to the editors, and they want to run the story, this journalist. So I then had to call up, like, you know, this national journalist kind of like lawyery thing where you can call up and complain. And I had to put in writing saying, please do not put this out. If you put this out, I'm going to have to, like, you know, go against you legally or something. So I had to fight to get this story out of the paper.
From a mainstream journalist, from a top tabloid,
Big.
in order to portray me as an abuse, essentially, with no truth in it all. And that for my life, do you know, the whole purpose in me wanting this, the whole reason why I've wanted to do this, is because I've been absolutely terrified of what they're doing. And that one little recording there proves that they will change what I'm doing and saying. This is massive. This is Britain's leading investigative journalist documentary by the BBC that we pay for. Create, editing news in order to destroy my life. Now, John Sweeney's been contacting me for weeks now for a gotcha moment where he can interview me and throw all these accusations from God knows who at me. Well, that gotcha moment is now in my hands, because I'm now going to sit down and I'm going to put these to John Sweeney to see how he justifies any of this. Right? Fine. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Just before we start, I just wanted, because I am of fair and balanced reporting, I just wanted to clear a couple of things up while we're here. Is that all right to start?
Okay, but you're recording, I think, aren't you? You're recording, so after.
That's fine.
Yeah, okay. So we're not starting yet.
No, that's something we want to hear from you. So, this is a panorama documentary. You wouldn't be working with an organisation called Hope Not Hate in this documentary in order to find people who get the opinions.
That's what we're doing. We're making a panorama documentary.
Okay, so it's the BBC, because it'd be quite strange for the BBC to be, how the BBC could be impartial on a documentary when Hope Not Hate are an organisation who are funded specifically to destroy.
There are two separate entities. The BBC, I work for the BBC, this is the BBC panorama production.
Okay, can I just quickly show you something here? So what this is Joe Moore from Hope Not Hate, and what he says in this message is that Hope Not Hate are steering this documentary.
My name's John Sweeney, and I'm a reporter for Panorama. So what this other guy says, he's steering, he's not steering.
Okay, I'm aware of any threats or blackmail that's been made to any of my ex-employees to give negative information about me. Are you aware?
No.
We were basically threatened with the most horrendous shit you can possibly imagine for 3 months, constantly to do this, constantly. Because basically, why they have dirt on us is when we left Rebel. I don't know if I told you this, when we left Rebel, we were really fucking angry, and none of the media would take all the stuff we had on them. So Nick Close reached out to me on Twitter and he was like, oh, meet up with us. And we were like, oh, okay, like we weren't working with anyone then. So we were like, yeah, fuck it. And we met up with him twice and we were like, oh, we can write a book on Rebel Media, we can write a book on how they scammed people and this and this and this and this and this. And we were like really conniving with them. One of the first things they started threatening us with, this only started 3 months ago. We had no contact with them between 3 months ago and leaving Rebel, nothing. They started messaging us saying, we need to meet you, this is really serious. And then when we met them, they said to George, I wasn't there, we're going to release all of the meetings that you've had with us, threatening Rebel Media and talking shit about right-wing personalities and bitching about nothing serious, just setting on their pants. And they're going to make you, and we're going to basically expose you. And also we've got 6 signatures from the top trade unionist organisations in the country saying that they're going to come after you, and the government have opened a new department which we're advising on counter-terrorism, which are going to prosecute you for writing scripts which have incited the Darren Osborne terrorist attack. And it was like, they were basically like, you're going to fucking go to jail and you're going to get exposed for meeting with us if you don't work with us. This is what it all comes down to, this Panorama fucking thing. And Hope Not Hate were there standing next to the BBC producers.
When you went for the meeting with Panorama, who from Hope Not Hate was it?
Nick, Joe, John Sweeney and the producer. So Hope Not Hate were fucking terrifying. They blackmailed us, they fucking used the whole thing to try and get into Taylor's pants. This is how bad it really was. When we pulled up in London, this was the day I dropped off the suitcase to you, right? That I went straight off from there, I can't remember where it was, to go and do this interview with them. They hired out this big car park warehouse thing. They had a little chair in the middle of it. I walked into this room, sat down. It was a cameraman, it was the head producer, it was Nick, and it was Joe. And then I started getting really nervous because she was saying, how much money, name numbers, name figures, and I was like, well, it was enough to pay for us to make videos, and all the money was spent on it. And I was just saying vague shit. And then Joe said, can we stop the interview, please? And then I was like, okay. And then Nick went, can you come with us, Kaylin? And then Nick and Joe took me to the other side of the warehouse and said, Kaylin, you really need to give them more information than this. You really need to open up a little bit more because this is really not useful to them. They're probably not even going to use this. You need to go into specifics, you need to go into numbers, you need to at least show them something.
Were they threatening you at you?
Have a cigarette and we'll come back to it.
Were they threatening you then?
I had a cigarette and I went back and I sat down and I still couldn't really do it. And it was really bad. Like, I was like shaking the whole time. That's when we told Panorama that we didn't feel that it was safe, that it was not okay, and that we were basically threatened.
Bit of a strange one here. I know, sorry man, I know it's 4 o'clock in the morning here, but I've just got off the phone to Caelan for an hour, yeah? How much have they told you about Hope Not Hate?
Not much, why?
You're aware they've been meeting with them regularly?
I've met Joe too before. Yeah, I know that Caelan and George have met with them before.
Continually met with them? When you was doing your Borderless documentary, Hope Not Hate flew out to Italy to meet them?
I don't know what they were talking about, but for the most part, like, I think they're just afraid of them. From what I've been told, it's like they're like, oh, they're kind of blackmailing us, like, hang out with us, or else we're going to get you guys arrested or whatever. So they just met with them.
So hold on a second. I'm with Panodrama.
Why Hope Not Hate present in that interview? Why Hope Not Hate present in the interview, Caelan?
I'm with Panodrama, and we are doing a film about you.
Are you aware of that? Are you aware of the
Look at these. I'm the reporter, and I'm asking you questions. Okay. Right. I get the point.
Are you aware? Are you aware?
I don't
Are you aware that the recent images sent by someone from Hope Not Hate to Caelan?
I'm aware of the allegation. You are. I'm aware of the allegation, and I do not think it's credible or serious. If I'm wrong, you can put that information out there.
If somebody has been blackmailed, threatened, intimidated by an organisation that you're steering your documentary, I think we're in the next one. Go next bit.
Made really inappropriate, I don't know how to describe it, almost basically like a sexual assault situation towards me when I was really drunk, pretty much passed out.
Fucking hell, this gets messier and messier.
No, hold on, yeah, okay, and I got really upset and I broke down and I told George about it last week because it's really fucked me up. And George messaged Nick, and apparently nearly got suspended, and it's fucking, it's a really big mess.
We'll come to Milan to see you. Who did he come with?
Nick.
He come with Nick, so Nick was with him.
Yeah.
And what did he do when he was drunk?
Nick wasn't there at that moment. Nick had gone home. So we were filming with Lauren, and then they said you've got to meet us, you've got to meet us, you've got to meet us. So we flew to Spain via Milan, met them in Milan, literally just had a coffee with them, but they basically just carried on threatening and said you've got to do Sky or one mainstream media thing. And then I went back to London to drop something off and to go then to Spain. So Caelan was left in Milan for one night. Nick left that night as well, I think. And then this is when this thing happened. Caelan said that he was basically really wasted and he thinks let himself into Caelan's room. And basically, Caelan kind of woke up and was half naked, trying to do something with him, and then Caelan said no, and I was like, oh, don't have to tell anyone, blah, 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 blah. And Caelan's really fucked up about it. So this was 3 months ago, or 2 months ago. Caelan only told me about it last week. So I messaged Nick saying, we need to talk, what the fuck is going on? And then Nick said that he's doing an investigation into it. George also messaged Panodrama saying, guys, Hope Not Hate raped Caelan.
Hi Joe, it's Tommy Robinson.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah, not bad. Obviously you're aware I have a documentary coming out on Saturday. I'd just like to ask you a couple of questions quickly about your involvement.
Bear with me, I'm not going to be able to do it on the phone. Well, I'm not going to have to speak to colleagues before I can do anything, I'm afraid.
So you can't just answer why you were you present during an interview with Caelan Robertson and Panorama?
I'm not going to talk about anything on the phone.
Why not? Why not?
You can't just ring someone up. If you want to speak to me, you can drop me an email and we can...
This is just your opportunity to counter what's being said.
I'm not going to answer any questions over the phone. I don't see what's the issue there is, even if I was.
So, were you and Nick Knowles present during an interview with Caelan Robertson and Panorama?
I've said everything I'm going to say to you, Tommy. I'm not going to answer any questions like that if you want.
Just a yes or no. It's a simple yes or no.
Simply, look, Tommy, we're wasting time.
Okay.
We must ensure we avoid bias or an imbalance of views. Our output will be based on fairness, openness, and straight dealing. Contributors will be treated honestly and with respect.
There are people being intimidated and blackmailed and getting negative reviews against them. The men who are doing it are present or enduring abuse for saying their opinion. Now, John, when it comes to fake news, your job screens, I'm going to separate you from these allegations that Dean made. There are allegations that okay, so these are allegations. These allegations.
And there's no evidence apart from more words or as to the substance of the allegations.
And we have okay, John, would you tell anyone what they have to say in the interview? And I'm playing the next one.
We only, the BBC we only do question areas. So here's, it's a volunteer army, I want you to be comfortable about it, so is there anything you don't want me to ask about? This is, I'm not supposed to answer this. I'm not supposed to answer this. I'm not supposed to answer this. So I'm going to ask you about, I'm going to take it through what I want from you, and follow me. Simple two things. One, people like us, BBC, the establishment, have not listened to what Tommy's been saying, and that's bad.
Yes.
And so the extent to which the entire conversation about Islamism, extremism, about what that means for ordinary Brits up and down the country, closing that down, showing it off as racist full stop is wrong. And that goes on the account, and you say that, and that's what I'm hearing you say. The second thing is, but there's something, my own personal experience, it was difficult, because I was a good trooper, and then suddenly I was friends with the dogs. As a human being, he's funny and charismatic, and who's and can be great company, and he's not your he's not a Nazi. Number three, partly because of the pressure, partly because of the chaos, you fall out. It's horrible in terms on the mind. Those three elements,
yeah,
and those three elements work in the show.
He has.
Feel. We have a proper ding dong.
Okay. Because there's a lot of people that.
And the good stuff, your stuff goes in.
So there you are.
Because I'm saying I'm looking after a long conversation, which you haven't.
I've got you 6 times telling that individual what they must say. And let's go to the next one.
It's sexualized, so he wanted to make it out like he basically like Harry Weinstein me.
Oh my God, man.
Because you're like in a position of power, and like all this shit, and I was like, yeah,
So when I'm being told, this isn't about you, John. When I'm being told that journalists are approaching people,
sorry, I don't understand.
I'll tell you one second. This specifically is not about you. When I felt sick, okay, because I found out that journalists were offering money to try and get a young girl to do a Harvey Weinstein story against me. Now, you're Panodrama, you're John Sweeney, so let me play the next.
I call him like a silly little man and stuff. I'm just shouting at him. Yeah, but
it was not bad.
It was quite bad.
Can we have that? I'll drop you in it.
I'll have this thing. It will drop you in it. Everything will drop you in it.
Not necessarily.
It was really bad. We had this great big argument in Woburn High Street. Yeah, maybe. I suppose that I did give to the lawyers, and they said, well, actually, this for the case doesn't really work because you're just having a dispute. Doesn't really whatever. But I thought I'd record it just in case. I gotta do that.
That's
It's only audio. It's only audio.
that's fine. How angry did it get?
He gets really angry and then he runs away and gets in the car and drives off. And I shout after the car. It's really bad.
We can clip that bit. We can clip that bit. We can clip that bit. My view about that is that I think building a kind of a kind of gender, a kind of sexual thing against the person I was looking to know was worried about whether she would be identified. Now clearly that tape is now in your hands, so we can see that she's working.
John, you said she was clipped.
No.
You said she was clipped. Do you have any idea what implications? You tried to turn a normal argument into a sexual matter.
No.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You want to take it. Do you understand the implications? I've got 3 young children. Do you think we destroy a man's life? Because this is what you were planning on doing. I've got the evidence.
I misunderstand. So what I was trying to do was to say to that source that if necessary we would change her gender to turn her, for example, into a man. I've done that on regular occasions where I have public issues.
So you're not realising I've got all of this text?
You're
hanging yourself.
So John says I'm misrepresenting him, and in fact he was telling her he could change her gender so she could not be identified. Let's just hear that clip again.
I call him like a silly little man and stuff. I'm just shouting at him. Yeah, but
we not done.
It was quite bad.
Do we have that? I'll drop you in it.
I'll have a thing. It will drop me in it. Everything will drop me in it.
Not necessarily.
It was really bad. We had this great big argument in Woburn High Street. Yeah, maybe. I suppose that I did give to the lawyers and they said, well actually, this for the case doesn't really work because you're just having a dispute. It doesn't really whatever, but I thought I'd record it just in case. I gotta do that. It's only audio. It's only audio.
That's fine. How angry did it get?
He gets really angry and then he runs away and gets in the car and drives off. And I shout after the car. It's really bad.
We can clip that bit. We can clip that bit. We can clip that bit. My view about that is that I think building a kind of gender, a kind of sexual thing against
We can do a kind of gender, a sexual thing against Tommy Robinson. Nice try, John.
We should not present invented material as facts or knowingly do anything to mislead our audiences.
I've done 10 years worth of demonstrations, I've got cameras on me absolutely everywhere, and what they've been trying to expose and find is possibly that I'm racist or I'm homophobe or something like that. I had you undercover for one boozy lunch, and you were repeatedly racist.
He's doing that too.
I pre-booked because the dog makes it difference.
Alright.
You know wine, don't you?
Wine?
Because...
Oh, wine?
Yeah, because Asian camel drivers don't like changing dances.
How dare you? How dare you? Where's my phone? Say that on camera, right? Racist.
True.
It's true. So this is the first one. So then you've got these are generalizations.
And I'm glad those words said, but the context is simple. What I had a real experience like that was a court case in the papers where nations have to drive the sources license. You were refused to
But let's face it, it's not the league of Trump so Muslims have to try to fight like us. But you have stereotypes in 500. Then that wasn't enough for you. You want to then have a go at previous.
And it always goes down well. is which is done to be Turkish. When you're pissed, you want to piss off a Greek yourself, speaking Turkish. I don't know, and they don't, anyway, never mind, they don't like it, but it's quite fun. So that's pathetic, it's a joke.
Do you find it funny though that that's the occasion of a country where many women will illustrate to know that? Do you find that funny? So you're upset the tribal community because you find it funny to speak in Turkish. Do you find that funny? None of this is funny. None of this is funny. None of this is funny.
I have a little more in common with some than most reporters. I scumbag Irish background.
Scumbag Irish background. So my family was scumbag Irish background. I used to hear more important a scumbag Irish background. That's a joke. So what did you say? So I'm very proud of my Irish heritage. My family was a scumbag to you, John. I'm very proud of my Irish heritage. If you get somebody like me talking to a source, so actually that source is in fact a mole working for Tommy Robinson, then in the context of a 2-3 hour conversation, there will be moments where jokes happen. But you've been beaten up by Antifa, or rather Antifa understands Tommy and you've been in there.
Those people are brainwashed.
And they're lefty people, they're lefties.
Self-hating whites.
How about Boomer Honky? This is a conversation with your source. In what I'm trying to do is you're trying to label me, and what's happened is in one afternoon of my life, in 1 month's time, you've been, okay, let's talk about homophobia. Look, you seem obsessed with gays. So you have an obsession, because then you ask if Joe Morgan goes gay, right?
Because they've not gone out and just had a mate that's gay. That's the difference. So you've got people working like all these different places in the UK or whatever, and they're sort of, they've not just had a gay mate.
Have they never met a conservative then?
I remember one line in particular. She said, "What do you think about LGBT or something?" And I said, "Well, some of the stuff that gay people say is just ridiculous." And that's me being the way.
There's nothing wrong with it. You said something worse. I get it.
Probably, that's the way that I would speak to Kaylin. You know, that's the way that I would speak to Kaylin in a bar. You know,
I think like they're ridiculous. They should be shot.
Well, yeah, exactly. No, obviously.
No, I know. Did you say it?
No.
Good.
That's the thing, because unbeknownst
I would say that, by the way. I would.
What were we talking about? Oh yeah, Joe's dick pics.
Is he gay? On my gay dance rubbish, these are very often. These are very often. These are very often.
So the best man wins.
Yeah. That's a bit weird.
Jim Dobbler.
I'm not like that.
You're not talking about his man for good.
Presenters, reporters and correspondents are the public face and voice of the BBC.
Your ankle state, that's the most revolutionary term you could use for a homosexual person. My oldest friend at university is gay. Is it okay to use the terminology you work at? Is that okay?
It's not great.
Is it okay to
It's not derogatory, but the idea of my
let's get down to the reason that you and all of the media, you're trying to destroy me with a fabricated. You're blackmailing people. Okay. You're lying. You're blackmailing or let's go blackmail people who are in your meetings, in your interviews, whilst young men are being in order. I'm not. You've just heard people making allegations. I'm not making allegations. You've heard those are witness saying this to my solicitor. Now then go to the next one. Let me go to the reason why. Let me go to the reason why.
Because it must be on the end of the reception.
Let me go to the next one.
I want to know.
Okay, let me go to the next one.
Okay.
This is the reason. So now everyone understands the reason why really the classes elite. Am I accountable? Let me play the next one.
I've met Danny. Danny was, I was working on some film on Newsnight, and Danny was in the green room. And it was unusual to meet a white working class male in the Newsnight green room. And I was in the same way.
Who's normally in there?
Sorry?
Who's normally in there?
It was so unusual. But me and one of my mates, we went down there to have a drink with him. In the way that you would do with somebody from the, you know, a cannibal from the Amazonian, from Amazonia, or maybe a creature from us.
So working class male is a cannibal from the Amazon. That's what you said to your
Okay, so wait a second.
You are the classist elitists. The way you view working class people is a disgrace. The reason we have the problem we have is because a journalist like yourself, from the background you're from, sneering down upon our community, sneering down thinking you're better than us, and let me just...
My understanding of the Labour Party today is they're almost like blooming, I don't know, activists.
Well, the social, the point is, don't you hear much more accents like yours and mine, rather than fuck off, or rather than Tories.
So the Labour Party will have accents like yours or hers in the past, rather than fuck off. You leave the working class vocabulary, it's simply fuck off. That is your classism. No, sorry. One thing is you'll take what I'm doing here, John, is I'm exposing you as a social power. And right now, John, because right now,
so this text was sent to us,
yes,
and this is the text from another source who's on that video.
Okay.
And the text is from you. If you had anything to do with this panorama
Not just that!